Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of King of the List. Today we're going to be ranking all of the bases from 3S1, 2, and 3, my survival series. Now just a quick disclaimer, I'm going to be ranking these purely based off of how cool they look. I'm not ranking each of the members by how good they are at building. I understand that sometimes someone wasn't able to complete a base, or they didn't put as much effort into one as they did another. I understand that this stuff happens. So here we go. In 16th place, we have Josh's starter house. This was his starter base from 3S3, a little wooden shack that he constructed very quickly, and he moved out of even quicker. I think by the time that I actually saw the base itself, he had already begun moving out and into his castle. So I don't think he's going to be mad at me at all for putting this all the way in last place. In 15th place, we have Danny's house. Now, I do feel bad for putting Danny's house in 15th place, however, while the outside looks really nice, the inside was never actually finished. Danny was on for a little bit in 3S3, and then he kinda just dropped off a little bit, so the inside has almost nothing in it, and there was supposed to be a basement and everything. He was going to make it look all nice, but if the inside was finished, this would definitely be a little higher on my list. In 14th place, we have Nathan's starter base from 3S3. Nathan's starter base didn't have a whole lot to it. The building that you see here on the left is the actual house itself, in which it had some cool supports, a nice material palette going on. He had a cool glass wall, and the building on the right that you see is just the little building that goes around his mine shaft all the way down under the ground. So not a whole lot going on, but it looks pretty cool. In 13th place, we have Jonathan's Shipwreck from 3S3. The Shipwreck is pretty cool, being inspired by the other shipwrecks that are scattered around the world, but this time he decided to build one in the top of an iceberg. And I think it actually is a really cool concept. Unfortunately, the ship is about the size of a typical one, meaning that it's small, cramped, and it's not very good for an actual base. Plus, it's very difficult to get to, especially since it's a starter base. He wasn't going to be flying into it or anything like that. The concept is cool, it looks really cool, but it's not really functional. In 12th place, we have Nathan's base, his main base from 3S2. This base looks very similar to his 3S3 starter base in the sense that it uses very similar materials. Basic wood, planks, and stripped logs, and the deep slate on the roof. It did have a very cool basement with a redstone contraption to get you down there. You know, it was enough for him for that season, but it's not a lot higher on this list. In 11th place, we have The Wall, Amos's quote-unquote base from 3S3. Now, the reason why The Wall is at the place that it is because it wasn't really a base. He actually had his chests and everything down here in this general area. But he built The Wall initially because he was going to build a giant box around the rest of our bases, and then he would just like randomly put stuff in there, I guess. It obviously never got completed. It wasn't even a quarter of the way done. It looks incredibly menacing, and that's the reason why it's so high on the list. But it's not any higher because it didn't function as a base at all, and it wasn't even close to being completed. In 10th place, we have Casa de Johnny. I think I pronounced that correctly. Jonathan built this really nice looking house that he found, I believe, inspiration from the internet of this really cool, I want to say like tropical style home with 3 different levels. The bottom level not being used, but the middle and top level being used as actual living space. And I think it actually looks pretty cool. If he was on longer, I think he could have done some stuff with the decks, maybe adding like a swing or some storage, an enchantment table, you know, stuff like that. The potential is there, but he wasn't able to actually do anything with it. In 9th place, we have the Cottage, my starter base from 3S3. This cottage I actually grew really fond of, and I really liked the style of it, when at first when I built it, it looked really wonky. In some ways, it still looks a little bit off, but overall, I'm very pleased with it. The top floor ended up being gutted out and not being used for anything, and the bottom floor was converted from, you know, a general storage and bedroom area to a shop. But I do like the little crops that I have scattered around, and the little details in the landscape makes this one of my favorite starter bases of all. In 8th place, we have the Hobbit Hole. This was Jacob's one and only base from 3S3. Unfortunately, he was only on for a couple of days before, life happens and he's got to go do other stuff. But I think it looks really good. I didn't know that he was playing Minecraft for so long when I added him to the server. He's basically a Minecraft veteran. As you can see, the detailing in the pathways and how he has so many different levels and thicknesses in his walls alone. He has, I think, 3 blocks of thickness just in the front wall. That's crazy. And the detail on the inside, even though it wasn't done, it was really cool and it felt like a Hobbit hole. He definitely went for what he was trying to accomplish. And it looks really cool. It is, in fact, my favorite starter base of the entire season. In 7th place, we have Josh's Castle version 1, his main base from 3S2. As you can see, this base was perfect for this landscape. He found a mountain that was kind of isolated from the other ones, and he flattened it out and built his castle on top. Now later on, not this image, but later on he did add a roof to the middle, which in my opinion actually made it look a little bit strange. I like this version a little bit better. If we're talking about realism, kind of, it wouldn't work as much since it's very flammable. It was the biggest base by far of the season, and it was really, really cool, especially with the bridge that he had on the outside, and he had an outpost up at the top of the mountain, and even a horse stable right across the bridge. It was really cool, but compared to the ones that follow, it's not quite as cool. In 6th place, we have the Lars Homestead, my main base from 3S2. Now, I apologize for this rough image, but I attempted to build Luke Skywalker's home from Episode 4 as a 1-to-1 scale as possible. And it actually turned out really well. The detailing was not at all like it was in the movies. I customized it to my liking. I added an extra secret room on the inside, and I made different rooms for different things. But overall, it was very accurate to the movies, and I think that's why I like it so much. It wasn't a huge base, which is why it's not higher on this list, but the amount of detail I was very happy with. In 5th place, we have Liam's main base from 3S2. Now, if he watches this video, I know he's going to be shocked to see this base so high on the list, because he even told me he wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't know if that's changed, but the outside looks pretty cool. The chiseled cobblestone, or the chiseled stone that he has here, is a really nice touch, but it's the inside that I love. And unfortunately, I can't show you an image at the moment, but the inside had these really cool corridors made out of trapdoors and other kinds of woods, and it was so cool because it almost felt like you were in this hotel, kind of a dark hotel kind of a thing. Whether or not that was the style of building that he was going for, I thought this base was fantastic. I really wish that he would have finished it, but stuff happens. At number 4, we have the Ewok Village, my base from 3S1. This was definitely one of the best bases that I have ever built. It was supposed to look like an Ewok village, but I quickly abandoned that. It was just basically the same shape, but everything about it had nothing to do with Ewoks, right? The Ewoks didn't use all this glass and all this stone. They didn't have all of these more modernized forms of construction, so obviously it didn't look a whole lot like the real Star Wars thing, but I made this thing as good as I possibly could have, and it really helped me learn different kinds of building strategies, terraforming things, and it made my base building for Season 2 and 3 a whole lot better. This base is near and dear to my heart, especially because it is what started off the series as a whole. In 3rd place, taking the bronze, we have Josh's Castle, version 2. I mean, take a look at this thing and tell me that this is not awesome. This is definitely an upgrade from his Season 2 base. I mean, his Season 2 base was awesome on its own, but this looks and screams castle. This was super defensible, obviously, because it's in the middle of the ocean. He's also got everything, for the most part, made out of stone, so, it can't be, caught on fire. He had some really cool interiors. He had a cool meeting room style room at the very top of his base. He had a cool nether portal room, enchantment table room, storage room, you name it, he had it. And it still felt like a castle. The one thing I wish he could have done was add some more to the top here in this courtyard area. Maybe like an archery range and some storage for food. Stuff like that would have been really cool to see, but overall, I loved this base. In 2nd place, we have Tipoca City, my 3S3 mega base. Now, you're probably surprised that this is not 1st place, But let me tell you, I loved making this base. I think if I added up all of the blocks that it took for everyone to make their other bases from 3S3, it would be equal to the amount of blocks that I used for this base alone. But this thing, it was very simple, just 3 main structures, each one serving a different purpose. One was for battling, one was for storage, and one was for sleeping and smelting. It was very cool to build. I think it looks exactly like what I was going for. I'm very pleased with it, and I definitely can consider this to be a mega base, and I can't wait to build my next one. And in first place, you probably figured it out, is Nathan's Skyscraper. This isn't the best image that I could possibly have gotten, but I think it speaks for itself. He built this entire skyscraper without even planning on doing it originally. Originally, he was just going to build that starter house, and he said, what else should I do? And I gave him some suggestions for base ideas, and the one that he liked was Skyscraper, and he just said, oh, I'll build that. And he did, and it's a fantastic, built out of logs and glass, 2 materials that you wouldn't think of building an entire skyscraper out of. And then he dug it all the way down practically to bedrock with a really cool basement. Each floor was made for something special. Obviously, he didn't do much in the middle, but that's okay. He also had the Burge, which was technically part of his base as well. I mean, the list of things about this base, it just doesn't stop. It's so cool. And it's definitely going to be hard for any of us to top this build. We'll see if he can do it in 3S4, but that's definitely my favorite base that we've ever seen in the survival series. So yes, that's it for all of the bases. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what your favorite base is overall, or your top 3 favorite bases from 3S1, 2, and 3. I'm very interested to know. But again, thank you for watching. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe, and if you're excited for 3S4, stay tuned. See you next time.